I'm Tom Dalton. I work on Western Route, so I cover Paddington to Penzance up past Cheltenham and Oxford. It's a great big route, there's a lot going on. Metro railway right down to the branch lines in Cornwall. We've got 373 S&C sites on Western that we tamp on a regular basis, and 269 of them are sites that we tamp. So I'm talking today about Tamper Designs, because all of our S&C is designed on Western Route. All of it has a survey. Every machine that goes out of Tamper S&C has a design, which I think is a good place to end up, if you can. So I'm going to talk us through what Tamper Designs are and probably why we should be using them and the results we can get out of them. So start with the basics. What is a Tamper Design? A Tamper Design is where we pre-program the machine with what it's going to do to the track. So we give the tamper a couple of files, usually, with some information in them. The first one of these files has the designed shape of the track in it. You can see it up there. So on the left-hand side, we have our direction. So we have straights, transitions, and curves. In the middle, we have our cant or our cross level, which should match our curvature in its shape. And on the right-hand side, we have the vertical. So that is the vertical curves and the gradient changes. And then the other bit of information we need to give is how far away a track currently is from that shape we give in the tamper. So in as much detail as you can, you try and say, here are all the lifts, here are all the sloughs along this scheme. And we only do this with tampers because stone blowers at the moment can't take geometry. They are purely a smoothing machine. So that's all very well and good, but why would we want to use a Tamper Design? And there's a few slides on this we're going to go through. The first one we're going to talk about is transitions, so cant transition in particular. So we've got some data from a tamper's recording run before and after it has tamped the track. In this instance, the tamper has not used a design, it's been smoothed. So what happens is, before the tamping is carried out, the tamper drives through the site, recording it, and the tamper operator at the front will input the location of all the transitions. This means when the tamper's software smooths the track, it keeps the transition in the same place. So this cant transition was well marked on site. It was actually plated from a renewal. This is a fairly typical example of what happens. So here you should be able to see is our cross level from the pre-recording run. So the vertical axis has got the cross level in millimeters and the horizontal one distance in meters. And we've got a second data set from after the tamper's treated it. And it looks like it doesn't align very well, but I promise you that on the extents to the left and the right, it does. I've zoomed in to show the point here, which is that unintentionally smoothing the track has moved that transition by 10 meters. So if you design your track, you're not doing that. You're putting it exactly where it's supposed to go. We move on to probably a more interesting area of it, I think this is where more benefits are to be had, is S&C. So what we want to do with S&C is achieve coplanar bearers. And what I mean by that is that the bearer has got a consistent rake throughout it, usually the same amount of cant on each line. So we're going to look through an example here. This might be an extreme example. It might be something that is fairly familiar, depending on the assets you've got and the age of them and the tonnage they experience. So tampers only consider one rail on each line when we lift. We lift one rail to a design position, the other rail is put to the right amount of cant relative to that first rail. So we're going to consider two rails in blue and orange. So this is what we're aiming for. We're aiming for 0 cant, coplanar bearers. And again, we've got a little bit of survey data. So this shaded area is where the tide bearers are. So I've omitted from my pictures the turnout routes. It's just got the through routes on here for simplicity. So this is, if you like, the up line, its survey position. This is the downline survey position. So we're looking at vertical levels. And this is the design position we're ending up with. Just out of shot on the right-hand side, there is another high spot which the design is tying into. And what you can see here is there's a different amount of lift required, quite a different amount of lift really, between the two lines. With a design, that's really, really easy to achieve. If you're not going out with a design, you're trying to smooth track, it's very unlikely you'll be able to achieve such high and differing lifts, because none of our software that we've got is designed for smoothing S&C with tampers. There's only one OTM that can do that, and that's the multi-purpose stone blower. So effectively what we do is when we smooth track, we fudge the S&C in there. We tell the tamping machine, don't move the track here, because the long bearers are usually in a good position. And so we say, lift it maybe 10, 15 mil, slew it 5 mil. And you can see here, that's not exactly a great thing to do. This is a 5-year-old S&C layout. This is on its first tamp. It takes about 90 million tons a year between Didcot and Swindon. So it's fairly high tonnage, but you can see there's still a very significant difference in lift there. Another good reason to use Tamper Designs is to control our track position. So track position needs to be controlled for a number of different reasons. It might be for gauging or OLE, or there might be some other sort of considerations around why you want to put the track where it is. And smoothing the track, you can sort of get away with this, but there's a big advantage of doing a design in that you can plan it, you can iterate your design, you can consult with gauging engineers or overhead line engineers, and you can work out what the right compromise for the site is. So we're going to go through a couple of slides that show quite simply why track designs are quite a good way of doing this compared to letting your tampers just smooth the track. So we're going to look at a simple site. It's got a curve transitioning into a straight and then transitioning back out into another curve. So nothing particularly unusual there, but there is actually part way along it a restriction where we need to slew the track specifically one way. So first of all, I'm going to show you what would happen if you tried to smooth the track, and then I'll show you how we go about this in designs to make things a bit better. So if we try and smooth the track, you get something like this. Your straight isn't actually a straight anymore. Your straight is probably smooth, but what smoothing systems do to achieve a certain amount of slew is blend the verse lines over a given length, and the length will vary depending on the nature of the slew restriction and the line speed. And designing a track offers us a much better alternative, because you can see in the fairly extreme example there, there's quite a few extra direction changes we've added in by letting the tamper smooth its track. And direction changes in general are bad. Trains don't like changing direction, they weigh a lot, they go very, very quickly. And the way we measure track with SDs helps us to see where we've got areas where the change of direction is very frequent. High SD means we're changing direction a lot, and low SD means we're not changing direction very much. So if you've got your slew restriction, you go out and you smooth track, you end up with probably a much higher SD than you should do. So if we're going to design the track, this is a better way of going about things, because rather than just blending the track around our slew restriction, we can actually adjust our track much, much further back than any smoothing software will. And this is akin to, if you like an analogy, sort of looking through a telescope and making a very small change of direction. Because the telescope's looking a very long way away, your field of view changes dramatically. So what we do when we design track, rather than blend around the slew restriction, we will tend to adjust elements further back. When we adjust these elements further back, we can probably maintain a very similar design in that we've got essentially a curve transitioning into a straight, transitioning into a curve again. But it means we can achieve the slew we want. So it's a much better way of getting very, very good SDs compared to smoothing track. So now you're all completely convinced, you're going to design all your track now. We're going to look at what results you might expect to get from this activity. And results do vary quite a lot. It depends an awful lot, primarily on the site conditions, but also good tamping practice, making sure you've got a decent design that's well constructed. You've actually minimized number of design elements. You haven't just sort of gone into your design software and gone click, click, click and match what's there already. And you've correctly created a tamper files with enough detail, and you've delivered it very well. But if you do all of that, which is fairly straightforward individually, you can get quite good results. So we're going to look at a 53 chain long site. It's 100-mile-an-hour track Cat 2 between Bristol and Taunton on the Great Western Main Line. So there's 53 chain site, and we've managed to do a vertical design with what we're looking at here. The top plot is our levels, and the bottom plot is our lifts in millimeters. And we've ended up with a few gradients connected by a few vertical curves. So the blue is our constant gradient, and the purple is our vertical curves. So we've minimized our number of elements. We've done our job as a designer. The lifts have been kept nice and low, so most of the lifts are under 20 millimeters, and there's a short peak briefly above 35 millimeters, so nothing too exciting. And then what that's given us in terms of results, looking at our SDs. And I know SDs aren't necessarily the best way of measuring one design compared to another, but SDs are what we use normally to plan tamping interventions, stone blowing interventions, particularly on high-speed track. So the lower the SD you can get, the better your starting point, and the more space you're giving yourself for deterioration before you intervene again. And you can see a simple design has achieved the best ever results on all 4 parameters. And I've picked on 1/8 through the site, but they're all showing the same sort of pattern. In 30 years, the track has never been as smooth as it has after we tamped that. It's been renewed in that time as well. So I'm going to go through another example with some numbers. This is maybe a more interesting example because you will say, okay, well, that was track cat 200 mile an hour. It's clearly quite light tonnage. It might be fairly easy to do that. So now we're going to look at an example with some S&C in it. This gets 60 million tons a year at 90 miles an hour. It's just north of Didcot on the DCL. And we're going to go through this in a little bit more detail with some numbers against it. So we've got our various track quality parameters there. We've got our worst top 35, our alignment 35 meters, and the 70 meters mean top and alignment. So this is the track before anything happened to it. There's a renewal I'm going to show you in a second. But before we go any further, I just want to remind everybody, our designs are done using a 1930s design method. We're not using fancy design software. We're not using CAD, which is something you can teach to a new tech in a couple of days. So just bear that in mind when we see the results. So the track was renewed at this point. And you see the SD settle down, the track settles down a little bit. And we've got some numbers, what was achieved post-renewal. So there's 2 crossovers here that have been renewed. One of them is bang in the middle of this 8th. There's reverse curves each side of it and a platform right off the end of the crossovers. So there's a bit going on in terms of gauging and everything else. Track was renewed, decent SDs. A few years later, it was time to tamp it. But this 8 doesn't actually show a lot of deterioration, but the 8 surrounding and the transitions do. So the track was smooth tamped, which is not ideal. But actually, it still made things better than the renewal managed. The top SDs improved quite a bit, but the alignment got a little bit worse, particularly the high-speed alignment, if you like, the long wavelength one that you'll feel for passenger comfort. And then a few years after that, again, the transition is deteriorating again, time to come back and tamp. And we've done a design tamp this time. And again, we've achieved the best results that have ever been achieved in this site. And I think if you look at the numbers, actually, it's surprisingly better than the renewal managed. So at this point, there's 8 years old ballast. There's been 90 million tons a year for 8 years going over it. And we've achieved alignment 0.9 of an SD lower for high speed. Nearly the same with the long wavelength top. So I don't think necessarily you need fancy design software or anything like that to do a good job. It's fairly straightforward to achieve that sort of thing with something very, very simple. 1930s design method. I will say, though, to be fair to the renewals teams, maintenance do have an advantage with this in that if we need to tamp a bit of extra track to get a better result, we can. Whereas for liability reasons, renewals teams tend to not go outside their normal extents of their renewal. And then just to finish with a more pictorial example, there's a good photos from a colleague, Swindon, of a site between Swindon and Didcot on the main line, which didn't look very happy beforehand. It's a very extreme example of how stuff starts off. That picture on the left is actually after it's been tamped once, as I understand it. The track had been smoothed already, and the team realized this isn't going to work, and we changed tack and went down the design route. And we ended up, after 4 tamping passes, getting it back like that, which I'm sure you'll agree is much more like what we should be doing. So 200 mil a slew, 4 tamps. You can get something that looks a little bit wonky, looking like it should do. Thank you.